Making chicken pot pie from scratch is normally a big deal, but I've thought of a way that we can get that same chicken pot pie flavor in a smaller and simpler way. So we're gonna start this recipe by making our chicken pot pie filling. And as always, the recipe is in the description below. So we have about a pound of diced chicken that I have on about medium heat. And I'm gonna add some butter and chopped celery to this. And the reason why we're gonna do this step first is because I wanna kind of brown the chicken a little bit and then get that celery nice and softened. So growing up, I actually wasn't a huge fan of chicken pot pie because the ones that we ate were the kind that were frozen that you just like peeled the wrapper off and popped them in the oven. Wasn't my favorite meal. But once I had a homemade one made from scratch, doing it like we're making it here with the chicken broth and the fresh chicken, I was blown away. I had no idea that that could be that tasty. I feel like the key to a good chicken pot pie is two things. You want the filling to be really thick and rich and creamy and have sort of a hint of rosemary, little black pepper. And then you also want the top of the pie to be really crispy. And so that when you stick your spoon down into it, you have like the flaky top and then the buttery rich filling. That to me is a delicious pot pie. Okay, so this is looking good. Our chicken's looking like it's starting to cook. Our celery is starting to soften. And now we're going to add our spices. So like I said earlier, I love a hint of rosemary in a chicken pot pie. So we have about a tablespoon of fresh chopped rosemary, garlic powder, and then I'm also gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. This is something you can do to taste depending on how salty the chicken stock you use is. You kind of just wanna taste once this gets cooked and see if you wanna add some more, but I'm gonna add some at the beginning too. And now it's about to get rich and creamy and delicious. I'm going to add in about a cup of all-purpose flour, heavy cream. I love heavy cream. And then also we have some chicken stock. Add the rest of our liquid here. So we're gonna stir until this is all combined and we're gonna bring it to a boil. The flour in here is gonna serve as a thickener because I really want, when we dig our spoon into our chicken pot pie, to have that like creamy, thick filling. So the flour is gonna help us accomplish that. Okay, so as you can see, this mixture is nice and bubbling because you can see how it's like got that, it's like sticking to the spoon. That's what I want. Now you don't want this to go so thick that it's like pudding because we are gonna bake this in the oven. So when you bake it, some of the liquid will evaporate. I don't want it to be like a paste when you're scooping it out. So now I'm gonna bring this to a low heat to a simmer, and we're gonna add in our cooked peas and carrots, and then also our nutmeg. I love adding nutmeg here. It gives it just a little extra spice. Perfect. So I'm gonna let this simmer for a few minutes, and then we're gonna fill up our mugs. Okay, so we have our chicken pot pie filling made. It smells so good, so homemade. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill our mugs with this mixture. So I'm just gonna put a few generous ladlefuls of the filling in here. Yum, look at that chunk of chicken, yes. And I love these because these are perfect for personal mugs that you can just kind of hold and curl up on the sofa with a blanket, a good movie. It's a super warm, comforting dish. That looks great. Ah, that's a perfect texture. It's gonna bake up beautifully. Next thing we're gonna do is make our biscuit topper. So this is gonna be like the crust on our chicken pot pie. I have these flaky layer biscuits. You can just find these in the refrigerated section at your grocery store. And I'm gonna use about 1.5 per mug. I'm gonna press those together and then I'm gonna roll it out until it gets long enough to cover the top of our mug. Okay, great. And we're just gonna stretch it over the top of our mug like that. And see, we have a little bit of overhang. I kind of like that. It makes it feel kind of rustic and homemade. The little brown pieces on the edges are gonna be super tasty. And I'm gonna do the same thing for the other mug. Don't get me wrong, I love a homemade pie crust. It tastes delicious, but these are so much simpler. You still get that flaky texture like you do with the pie crust, that buttery taste. It's still gonna be really good. Perfect. Got a little overhang, digging it. Okay, so to finish off our chicken pot pies in these mugs, I'm gonna do the traditional way you would treat a pie crust. I'm gonna take a fork and I'm just gonna make little indentations on the crust. Cute. We're gonna do that to both of our mugs. Gives it that kind of homemade look. I love the presentation of this. It's just so warm and comforting. And then we're just gonna do a light little piercing in the center to kind of let some steam escape. All right, so these are ready to go into a 350-degree oven for about 15 minutes, really until the tops are nice and golden brown, and then I'm gonna bring them over to serve. All right, y'all, so we have our chicken pot pies hot and ready out of the oven. They smell phenomenal. Those flaky layer biscuits smell so good and buttery. We're gonna wait a few minutes until we dig in because they are really piping hot. I love that you can see the layers in the biscuits right here on the front. I love that deep golden brown color we got. These just look so good. But to add a little bit, an extra pop of color for presentation, I have some fresh rosemary leaves that I've just gotten ready, and I'm just gonna top them with a little bit of fresh rosemary. I love seeing that green. I love that you get the flavor cue of the rosemary that you're about to eat inside the pot pies. These look so good. They smell divine, and I'd like to eat both of them because I'm eating for two. Can't wait to dig in. One for me and one for baby. Yummy. Yum. I want to see how you style your chicken pot pie in a mug. Tag @PopKitchen on Instagram and comment below. I want to know what you want to see me style next.